everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are going to be playing the TBR Jar game for the month of April and also looking at some hopeful reads for the month. I am very excited to get back into another game for the fourth time this year. I've had a pretty decent run so far and I have some good and bad news about how March went. We'll get into that in a little bit, but if you're new here, the TBR Jar is just a little prompt game. Inside the jar are prompts like genres, or as you can see it says most recent purchase, through the glass there, little prompts that guide the reading. I'm definitely not a mood reader. I like to have some structure, and while sometimes I will deviate away from my TBR, I kind of like having something that I can tick off and complete each month. So for the jar we draw out 5 prompts each month. My best friend also uses this jar but she doesn't film her portion, and we have to complete them in that month. If we don't, there is a slight punishment generally placed, and that is that we have to pick up an extra prompt, so that would mean 6 prompts, but for now it's mostly just 5 and this year has been pretty decent. I'm looking forward to seeing what we draw out in a minute, but I'll put the jar down. As you can see, we have our spot ready and I have 5 prompts for April, and I will flip you back to March to see where we were. So the prompts we had for the month of March were sci-fi, and I completed Winter by Marissa Meyer. I gave that 5 stars. Steal a book. I'm meant to be reading this one here, At Your Age, Eve Brown. Steal a book meant I took it from my best friend's shelf. That's by 𝓕𝓲 𝓕𝓲, and I haven't read it yet. It is the 28th of March right now, and I'm not sure if I'll get to it, but if I can, I will finish it. So I can't give a rating for that one yet. Sim shall pick is when one of us pulls it out, the other one has to pick a book for them. I gave my best friend a list, and she picked Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson, and I gave that 5 stars. I had fantasy romance next, and I read Songs of Vice by Nicole Bailey. I gave that 4 stars. And you can also see that romance is not ticked off. Now I've read 3 or 4 romances already this month. I am meant to be using this book, Crazy Stupid Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. For that, as you can see, I'm halfway done. Spoiler alert, if this wasn't a book club read, I would have DNF'd. So yes, I am going to finish that book, hopefully this month. I'll probably finish that before I pick up Eve Brown, and fingers crossed I can finish it. I will go into more about the books that I read over the month of March in my end of March reading update. I've already done a mid-March reading update. I will link that in the description for you below. But without further ado, the reason I'm not going to be picking up a punishment, even though I'm probably not going to finish the month of March, is because I would have if I didn't have extreme circumstances. But I have mentioned in a couple of videos my nana ended up having to move into a rest home. I am her power of attorney, so I am very busy trying to organise her house to sell and things like that. So if I didn't have that suddenly sprung on me, I would have finished. However, life is life, so I'm not going to punish myself over the month of April. I'm only going to do the 5 prompts as planned for each month. So let's choose the 5 prompts and see what we get. I'm going to give the TBR jar a good shake. We've lost quite a few prompts over the last 3 months of playing. This will be the 4th month and we're looking a bit empty. So I'm wondering if it will be next month or the month after where we really will be on bare bones and have to put all the prompts that we've used back in the jar. We wanted to recycle them this time around rather than just putting them back in the jar. We're keeping them out so we can get to all the prompts, because there was a big issue last year where we kept getting the same prompts. So my hand is a little bit stuck in the jar. We've got a prompt. Let's see what it is. Opulent cover. So that means something that's got a really nice design on the front, can be foiled or just like a really pretty cover that just looks decadent. Prompt number 2 will be this one, most recent purchase. I can't even remember what that will be. Okay. Prompt number 3. My hand is stuck. Oh, I'm trying to grab them, but they keep running away. Got one. Time of day. I have an idea of what I'll use for this one. Okay, prompt number 4. 2 more to go. If I could get my hand out of the jar today, it wants to get jammed. Oh, got one. A retelling. And the final one, let's see, will be this one here. What is it? Oh no! No! I've just finished a whole series. Oh, that's mean. Okay, I told you it was going to get a little bit challenging now. So we will give this a go. Dystopia was the last prompt that came out of the jar now. So we've got opulent cover, most recent purchase, time of day, a retelling, and dystopia. Let's go try and find some books that match these. Okay, so I've gone with a whole physical TBR for the month of April. Let's see if I can make that work. The first prompt was opulent cover, and how stunning is the cover of Venom Dark and Sweet by Judy Eilen. This is the second book in the Book of Tea series, followed by the amazing A Magic Steeped in Poison book that I read for book club in February for 𝓤𝓲𝓭𝓮. I absolutely loved the book, and I went off and rushed to grab the second book of the duology, and I haven't yet had time to read it, so I'm definitely making time over April to pick it up. This follows Ning. She has the ability to wield tea in a way that can be used for good or evil. It can give the drinker strength, it can make them tell secrets, just things like that. It's really cool, fascinating magical system in this world, and I'm really looking forward to following along with her journey. She is also trying to save her sister. Her sister had gotten very ill with some sort of like plague that has happened to the kingdom, and Ning and her companions are now going off to try and save them by getting an antidote. So hopefully this will wrap up really well. I gave the first book 5 stars, and this is another 5-star prediction. Second book is most recent purchase, and I flipped into my journal. Thankfully I've been keeping track this month, and down here it tells me that the last book I got in was The Adventures of 𝓤𝓲𝓭𝓮, I hope I'm saying that right, by 𝓤𝓮 I have never read a book by her. I have City of Brass on my shelf to read this year as well, but this is the new April book club read for 𝓤𝓲𝓭𝓮, and it follows Amina. She is a pirate, she is also a mother, and she had given up taking on risks, but for one last time she's going on another adventure because she's been given an offer that she cannot refuse. So I'm not really sure other than that what the book is going to be about, but I am very excited to pick it up. We start it on the 3rd. That's the day that we start every month, and read for 6 days. So this will probably be one of my first books read over the month of April, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to reading about a character who isn't in her 20s. I believe that the main character is a middle-aged woman, so that'll be interesting to read. The next prompt is time of day, and I'm going with Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kemmermere. I have been putting this book off for the longest time. I really loved Defy the Night so much, but I had also really loved the first book and another series by this author, and then the second book was such a letdown, and I've got this fear that this is going to be the same, even though I have several friends that have told me it's fantastic. So this follows along with Tessa and Corrick, and they are in a world again with the plague, a different kingdom, and they are trying to find a way to cure the people that are suffering without taking too long to do so. They had sort of made some sort of treaty to get supplies, but obviously that treaty will run out. It was a short-term thing, and they are going to also go on an adventure. So the second book is about pirates. This one also has pirates in it apparently, and I quite like pirate stories, so I'm hopeful that this will be as good as the first book. I do hear that it's a little bit slow to get into, which I also found with the second book in the other series that I read by this author. So yeah, hesitantly excited to read this one. And the next one is a retelling, the next prompt, and I'm going to go with Last Violent Call by 𝓤𝓮. This is the novella series, the novella book in the series Secret Shanghai. The first two books in the series follow Romeo and Juliet-esque type of story. So all the characters in this are based off of that, so it's told two stories in this book. One is by Roma and Juliet, and the other is by Malcolm and Benedict, I think. Yeah, Marshall. I always keep on Malcolm. Benedict and Marshall. So obviously if you've followed the original tale of Romeo and Juliet, you can tell that their names are all very much so based off of the original. This also follows in a world of 1930s Shanghai, I believe. It'll be about that time now. I know the first two were set in late 1920s. And there are quite a few different races in this book. So Benedict and Roma are Russian, but they've pretty much lived their whole lives in Shanghai. So it'll be interesting to see how this works, because I think Benedict and Marshall are in Russia, I believe so, yes. And then Roma and Juliet are in a small village away from Shanghai, but I guess they'll be called back to the fight. I really loved the first two. I absolutely loved the companion series, or the third book in this series, 𝓿𝓲𝓷𝓭 𝓜𝓮, last year. It was one of my favorites. I'm very excited for the second book in that series as well. So this is like the bridge between those two books, from Our Violent Ends and 𝓿𝓲𝓷𝓭 𝓜𝓮, and it just came out, so I think I can squeeze this in for a retelling because the characters are from Romeo and Juliet. I'm going to say that that's going to work. I'm stacking them all off to the side here, and they're all starting to show a little bit, so I apologize for that. The final prompt we have is dystopia, and thankfully I have not continued on with the Arc of a Scythe series. I read Scythe as the book of the month for January. It's by 𝓤𝓱𝓮𝓻, and this is book 2 in the series Thunderhead, and I'm kind of dubious. Like, I really enjoyed book 1. I gave it, I think, 4 or 4.5 stars, and it's such a captivating world, but it really makes you think. So I was trying to hold off a little bit longer before picking up this world again, but I just finished the Lunar Chronicles, which was probably the only other dystopian read that I had on my shelf. So I think we'll go with this. This follows two characters, Rowan and 𝓤𝓱, I think is her name. Yeah, 𝓤𝓱. And they are teenagers who were in Scythe, brought in under the guardians of Scythedom, the hood of Scythedom, something along those lines, and essentially they are taught how to deal with the population, because this is set in a world where mortal death is no longer a thing. Immortality exists, and they've cured everything that we could possibly die from now. And to control the size of the population, there are Scythes who go around choosing who needs to leave the world, I guess. And there are very chilling tales along with righteousness in this world, and I really found it quite fascinating, especially when we do live in a world where we can just die from anything. To see how they would adapt that in a world where you can't. It was so fascinating, but yeah, very thought-provoking. So I hope that this one will read as well as the first, but not be too time consuming, because I did struggle a little bit to get through Scythe just because it was so heavy in thought. But yeah, looking forward to reading this. So each month I have a book of the month. There is a video that shows what each book is for the month, and for the month of April I have 𝓦𝓱𝓮𝓻 Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I'm really excited for this one. It sounds delightful. So Angelica is sick of trying to find herself a suitor, and when she helps her brother Victor make bring a reassembled man back to life, she realizes that she might not have to look for her match and she could make him instead. It sounds really delightful. I think this will be quite funny. Sally Thorne is an author you either love or don't, and she is very quirky with her writing, so I'm looking forward to how that quirkiness will relate in this book here. And this book was actually the reason why my setup this month for April is the hating game, because I'm reading another Sally Thorne book, so that's why I chose that one. So yeah, hopeful that this one will be a great read just like the rest. And another buddy read I have for the month is The League of Gentlewoman Witches by India Holton. I have been waiting to read this book ever since I picked up The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels it was in December. I read that one and I absolutely loved it. Book 3 is actually coming out in April, but it's coming out late in April, and we decided, my friends and I, we're going to read this book together. Two of them have to actually read the first book, so that's why I'm not rushing ahead and starting this already. But we're going to read this one over April together, and I'm so looking forward to it. If it's anything like the first book, I know it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So this follows one of the characters that we meet in the first book, and he is a pirate, and the other main character, I think her name is Charlotte and his name is O'Reilly. Yes, her name is Charlotte, and Alex O'Reilly is the main male character which we met in book 1. So Charlotte is a witch. She has no time or patience for a pirate, and I'm not sure how they get in the same vicinity, but I think it's going to be wonderfully funny, and the hijinks are going to be great between them, with the animosity that will probably lead to quite a lovely romance. I just enjoyed India's way of writing. It very much so made me think of Howl's Moving Castle, not only because the houses fly in this world when you're a pirate, but because of the banter. It's my favorite type of thing, so I'm looking forward to continuing that type of delightful banter through this read. And the final book on my list is X's and O's by Amy Lee. This is the second book in the Influencer series. I read, what is it called? Set on You last year, and I absolutely loved it. It was in my top 2 romances of 2022. So I'm very much so excited to read about Tara, which is Crystal's sister from the first book, and her lack of being able to find the one. She's gone through a lot of men, and hopefully the one that she's found now will be the one that lasts. And I think his name is Tristan from memory. Trevor, that's a T name, and Trevor works with the main male character in the first book, so it's going to be exciting to see the old characters that we've met in book 1 as side characters come together as the main characters in this. I really enjoyed Set on You. It tells such a great story, and I'm excited to see if X's and O's will continue that for me. And I'm glad that I'll be able to balance out some heavier fantasy and dystopian reads by picking up these romances that I've injected in along the way. So this is a really big stack that you can't even see very well, but I hope that you're excited as I am to see how these reads will go. I will be sharing, like I've started this month, 2 reading updates each month, one in the middle of the month and one at the end of the month, so you'll get to see how these books all fare, whether or not I enjoy them, if they're as good as I hope they'll be, and my thoughts on them. But if you enjoyed this video, it would be great if you could give me a thumbs up and also stick around if you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you again for spending some time with me today, and I cannot wait to start the month of April and see where we go. Bye everyone!